Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. You know what the hardest part about making these videos is? Is making sure you're wearing the right clothing. You want to look nice for them, but it's also very difficult because how do you go from your work clothes to these clothes? But I digress. Anyways, welcome to my channel. This is Jonathan David. In today's video, I want to talk about my M1 Finance portfolio. If you've seen some of my past videos, I've done some comparisons between M1 Finance and Robinhood, M1 Finance and Betterment. These are the brokerages that I use. So if we look at kind of my holdings right now, this is an account that I set up in mid-November. And really the purpose that I've done for this is really to build up a dividend portfolio. I like the idea of having stocks earn me passive income. If you're not familiar with dividends, what it is essentially your stock is paying you money for the privilege of holding their stock. It kind of keeps the price of the stock a little more stable because that extra income is not being added to the stock. It's instead getting paid out. So this is really good for those that are wanting to have passive income that are able to kind of build a portfolio in which they can live off of. So if you can see my M1 Finance here, I have a little over $1,000 put in. It's about 4.9% gain since mid-November. I opened this up in mid-November, and what I've done is I've built these different sectors of pies. So M1 Finance is really about giving you a pre-allocation capability so you can kind of determine what aspects you want to have your funds going into. In my case, I am putting in roughly $150 a week or so into M1 Finance, and I'm really excited to kind of see how this performs in the long run. So about being a month in or month and a half in, it's kind of cool to see the gains. So as you can see here, I'm up $25, but really I want to kind of talk about how I set this up and why. So as you can see me scrolling through this, what I've done is, I don't think a lot of people know this, is that you can make kind of pies within a pie. So instead of having all your stocks showing up on your main pie, what you can do, in this case, I allocate 55% to a Vanguard Dividend ETF pie. So if I open this, you'll see another pie. So here, what I've done is I've taken 4 main dividend growth and dividend stocks from Vanguard. So these are indexes that are good for dividends, and I've kind of put them as 25% each that make up that 55% total. So here I'm using VYMI, which is Vanguard International High Dividend Yield. I'm using VYM, which is Vanguard High Dividend Yield Index Fund, which is the domestic version. I'm also using VIGI, which is the Vanguard International Dividend Appreciation ETF, and the Vanguard Dividend Appreciation ETF VIG. So I have these 4 that make up my Vanguard, and this is pretty cool because these are Vanguard stocks, so expense ratios are fairly cheap, and they are really geared around dividends. A lot of these, I've done my research on Seeking Alpha, and I'm really trying to build a very broad portfolio for this purpose. Moving on, what I've done is I decided to allocate 12% of my investing into what we call REITs, which is Real Estate Investment Trust. So here, as you can see, I made a pie within this pie again. So I'm doing a couple more Vanguard indexes, as well as doing a stock called Realty Income Corporation. There are some benefits to this, and I'll probably go in more of these as my videos progress. But really, what I have is 45% of this pie going to VNQ, which is Vanguard REIT ETF. So it's really an index fund placed around REITs using Vanguard. Then if I go back, so I have 45% of that, then I also have 45% going into the international version of that. So this is the Vanguard Global ex-US Real Estate ETF, VNQI, I for international. And then the rest of that I have being your Realty Income Corporation. And what's cool about this one is it pays you a monthly dividend. So if you're not sure about dividends, they can be paid at different kind of intervals, right? So you can have it be monthly, bi-monthly, or monthly, or semi-annually, or quarterly, or whatnot. And it's pretty cool. And usually it's expressed as a percent of the total payout in relation to the stock price at any given time. So I'll go through that some more as I go through my thing. What I've also done is I've made a technology sector. And here I've allocated 9% of my weekly investing to go in this one. And here I've kind of picked some stocks that I want to invest in that kind of keep it broad. So whether it be Broadcom, Apple, Cisco, Microsoft, Alphabet, the parent company, Google, Verizon, AT&T, Shopify, Arista Networks, and Alibaba. A lot of these I have been investing in Robinhood, and I've had really good success. I really like AT&T because it's a good technology stock that pays dividends. A lot of these do, but I feel going into the carrier business, especially with the arrival of 5G, is probably going to be fairly good going forward, but it's good to have in your portfolio, in my opinion. Apps or stocks such as Cisco and Arista Networks, I think are very important, especially in the technology sector, due to their very heavy reliance on networking. And I'll go into some of these on why I buy them as I introduce more stocks into my portfolio. Broadcom is also a really good ETF that has been on a tear lately. So that's my technology sector. And then what I've also done is an energy sector, in which I've also picked some dividend companies for energy. So I'm doing Williams Companies, ExxonMobil, Enterprise Product Partners, Suncor, BP, Duke Energy, and Pioneer Natural Resources. So this is really to keep my portfolio diversified as I am trying to build this dividend portfolio. And I also have some industrial ones. As you can see, all these are pies within the pie. And I can kind of go through a tutorial on how I was able to do this within M1 Finance. So in the industrial, what you can see is I've kind of picked two right now, each taking up 50%, one being Union Pacific and one being 3M. Union Pacific, everybody knows about railroads, and 3M, this is really, it's like your adhesives company. Think of like, the markings on the road or industrial adhesives or things of that nature that are really good. So if I were to click into 3M, what you can see is that, they give some news on it, and you can also kind of look at, let's see here. Yeah, kind of your earned dividends and your market gain and return. So it's been going very well, about 9% gain. In addition, I also have a health sector. I really think investing in the health network, especially as our baby boomer population gets older and they're going to be more reliant on healthcare systems, I think it's going to be important to have. So if we look at the health, what we have here is you got some really of your classic health stocks. It's your Johnson & Johnson, your Cardinal Health, your Amgen, your CVS, Medtronic, AbbVie, Abbott Laboratories, and United Healthcare Group. So each one of these, I have it being a percentage of a pie within the health app that is in turn a percent of the larger pie. So that is kind of how I have my M1 Finance set up. And if I were to go, and one of the cool things about M1 Finance is that you can easily see how your picks are being used for your dividend kind of portfolios, right? So, which is pretty cool. So if I were to hit Manage Pie, like I'm doing here, and you can view the details. And what's cool about this, it will tell you how many holdings you have. So in this case, of all the slices I showed you in my pie, I have 36 different ETFs or individual stocks. The expenses as a whole is 0.11%, and my dividend yield is about 3%. I know there are some other stocks out there that pay upwards of 6 to 8% dividend yield, but in my opinion, that is not necessarily the wisest way to go. You want to have, when you pick dividend stocks, and I'll do a video on this, is you really want to look at these stocks from a historical perspective. You want to be able to look at a stock that has increasing dividend yields, so it's going up. You don't want to have a stock that pays 5%, then down to 3%, then to 4%, then to 2%. You would rather have it go 2, 2.2, 2.3, and keep going up. So your passive income will actually become greater over time, not subject to these fluctuations. So that is why a lot of stocks that have really high yields may be unstable because they may not be able to be sustained. So you have to do your research. And really, one thing I really like to do is look at Seeking Alpha. You can see these trendings of your dividend stocks that you are considering. You can see the yield. You can see the percent yield. The percent yield, as I mentioned, is really a function of the price. So it's really, I really care about the yield amount that's going up over time, because that way, your passive income is also going up over time. So that's kind of how I've done it. At least I'm trying to do it. So there's some other stocks that I'll be, continually monitoring and adding to this portfolio. But overall, I've been pretty pleased with it. I think going up 5% over a month and a half to get started is pretty good. And I think being aggressive in saving, I think being able to throw in, $100 every week or $150 every week is a really good indication of kind of seeing how to build that portfolio up and seeing how it's going to perform. And it's really exciting when you click on this, so you can see your retirement. But if you go down here to your activity, and this is what's cool, is you can see when I put my deposits in, as well as kind of what your trades are and your dividends. So like for instance, on December 31st, I got paid 6 cents from Avago. I also got paid 1 cent from BDX Beckinson, 9 cents, 6 cents, 61 cents, 58 cents, 3 cents, 29. And this is only going to go up in time. VNQI paid me $1.63. And I think that's a quarterly payout. This is what's cool about dividends, is you're getting that. And what's cool about M1 Finance is that these dividends get reinvested into your pie. So like this $1.63 that I have on VNQI, it's going to be spread around all my things. So it's really kind of a multiplying, compounding effect on your dividend portfolio. So, yeah, that is a quick summary of my M1 Finance. I think it's going to be really interesting to kind of see how this performs and keep going in the future, and kind of give me a baseline of a historical kind of tracking of my investments over time using YouTube and you guys as a means to kind of keep track and hold myself accountable. So that's pretty cool. Hopefully in my next installment of these series of M1 Finance videos, I'm going to see even, one, greater personal capital that I've put in, as well as greater gains. And hopefully over time, it'll be really cool. How cool would it be to go from making, $3 effective in a month to now it's like, oh, you're making $300 a month over time. It doesn't take much if you invest in dividends right to earn a passive income on much more. And as I get into other videos where I talk about FIRE, which is financial independence, retire early, and the 4% rule, which is really what you'll need to earn from your investing and not deduce from or deduct from your principal. If you go the dividend route, a lot of times those amounts are a lot less. So until next time, keep on investing, and I look forward to sharing you some positive news, and I'll be keeping you up to date on kind of my latest stocks and kind of how they're performing. So I appreciate it. Thank you. Bye.